So in this session I am going to explain the working principle of lathe machine. The main aim of this session is comprehensive understanding of working principle of a lathe machine, its components and their functions. The instructional objectives. This session is designed to explain the working principle of a lathe machine, including its basic operations, to familiarize participants with the various components of a lathe machine and their functions. And after completion of the session, you should be able to understand the working principle of a lathe machine and its importance in metal cutting process, and also you can perform basic lathe operations such as turning, facing, taper turning, the thread cutting, such operations you can perform using the different tools. Now let us see that what are the main components of lathe machine. Now you can see that I have taken the lathe machine, and I want to explain what are the different main components of lathe machines. Now see that the main part is a headstock. Main part is a headstock. The second is a tailstock. Okay. So the tailstock at the other end, and headstock, main headstock is incorporating all the driving mechanisms, and it's mounted the spindle and chuck, and it is mainly used to hold the workpiece, and the workpiece starts rotating. And coming to the tailstock, this tailstock will be at the other end, and whenever you are going to machining the long workpieces, and other end the workpiece we want to support with the help of this tailstock. Next is a bed. So bed is the main part, it support all the components of the lathe machine. So that is the bed. You can see clearly that I explained, illustrated these different parts with the help of the arrow and the numbering. So the third one is indicates the bed. And the chuck, you can see that the chuck, mainly the workpiece is mounted in the chuck. Chucks are different types of chucks are there, that will discussed in detail in the further the sessions. Now the chuck is, it may be the 4-jaw chuck or 3-jaw chuck, is mainly used to hold the workpiece. Next component is the spindle, where the chuck is mounted on the spindle having the driving mechanisms, and with the help of the motor and gears or belts, the spindle is rotating with the required speed, and that the chuck is rotating, and along the workpiece also rotate. That is also one main component of the lathe machine. Next, the speed controller. You can see, you can observe the speed controller. It will control the required speeds, because we require the different operations, different speeds are required. Okay, so that we will control with the help of this controller. Next, 7 is a carriage. See the carriage in between the headstock and tailstock, the middle the parts are, we can call it as a carriage, and the carriage is moving along this the lengthwise towards the headstock or tailstock for accommodating the different workpieces while machining. And feed rod, you can see that the feed rod. And in this lathe, one more is there, that is a lead screw. Okay, the feed rod and lead screw will be there, but here in this type the lead screw is not there, but most of the lathe machines are having the lead screw and feed rod. So with the help of these lead screw and feed rod, we want to accommodate, we want to machining thread cutting. Okay, so with the required the pitch of the thread, once we can set, it will be happening with the help of this lead screw and feed rod. Next rack, you can observe at the bottom of the plate, there is a small racks are there, so that with the help of the racks, entire carriage is moving towards the headstock and tailstock. And tool post. So mainly the tool post is used to fix the tool, and the tool is moving against the workpiece. And compound slide. So you can see that the compound slide that will be rotating, that wheel will be rotating, so that part will move towards the headstock. Okay, using this compound slide, you can performing the tapering operation. You require tapper, you can set and move the tool against the workpiece, that tapering taking place. And cross slide, you can see that cross slide, that is the tool movement perpendicular to the axis of the workpiece. The tool is moving in a cross side movement that is happening with the help of this cross slide. Hand wheel to move the carriage. You can see that the 13 hand wheel, the carriage is entire carriage you want to move towards the headstock or toward the tailstock, then you can rotate this wheel and the entire carriage is moving towards the headstock or tailstock according to the requirement. And hand wheel to move the tailstock spin. You can see the tailstock at different lengths of the workpiece, you can adjust. The tailstock will move. These two are moving on the guideways. The guideways are providing in the top of the bed, and along the guideways, entire the tailstock will move to accommodate different lengths of the materials. That is happening with the help of this wheel. Once we are rotating this wheel, so the entire the tailstock will move. Okay. So that is the tailstock, the spindle is there. That spindle have to move to and fro towards the workpiece, and you can support that workpiece. So entire the tailstock also, if you want, you can adjust at different lengths. And at the bottom, there is the two legs are there. Entire machine is supported on these two legs. So these are the main components of the lathe machine. Okay, these are other auxiliary components are there, but I want to explain the main components of the lathe machines are these 15. Okay, now let us coming to the working principle of lathe machine. How the lathe machine is working? So a lathe machine is a tool used in machining process to shape, cut or deform workpiece made of various materials such as metal, wood or plastic. The primary function of a lathe machine is to rotate the workpiece on its axis while a cutting tool is applied to remove material and create the desired shape or surface finish. Workpiece mounting. The workpiece, which can be a cylindrical shape or any irregular shape object, is mounted securely on the lathe machine. It is typically held in place using the different chucks, that is the 3-jaw chuck and 4-jaw chuck. For cylindrical objects, we are using the 3-jaw chuck, and for non-cylindrical objects, you can use the 4-jaw chuck and collets. Other specialized fixtures are used to fix the workpiece. Rotating the workpiece. So for lathe machine rotates the workpiece about its axis. This rotation is achieved by engaging the spindle, which is a motor driven component connected to the workpiece. So the motor is connected to the spindle via belts or some gear mechanism, depends upon the lathe we are using. In either way, the rotation is happening with the different speeds. So the tool mounting. The cutting tool, also known as a tool bit, is mounted on a tool post or tool holder. The tool is carefully aligned and positioned relative to the rotating workpiece. So the tool movement, the tool post or tool holder can be adjusted along various axes, including longitudinal, that is parallel to the workpiece axis, transverse, perpendicular to the workpiece axis, and vertical height adjustment. So these adjustments enable the cutting tool to approach the workpiece from the different angles and positions. So the cutting operation. Once the tool is positioned, it is brought into the contact with the workpiece, applying cutting forces. The cutting tool can remove material by shearing, shaving or scraping. The shape and size of the cutting tool as well as the cutting parameters such as the cutting speed, feed rate and depth of cut depends on the desired outcome and the material being machined. So workpiece shaping. As the workpiece rotates and the cutting tool engages with it, material is gradually removed. resulting in the desired shape or surface finish. The operator or machinist guides and controls the lathe machine to ensure accuracy and precision during the cutting process. So, continuous operation. The cutting operation is typically continuous, with the machinist adjusting the tool position, feed rate and other parameters as needed to achieve the desired result. The lathe machine may also have automatic or semi-automatic features that can control certain aspects of the machining process. Finishing operations. After the primary cutting operations, additional finishing operations may be performed to refine the shape, smooth the surface or create specific features on the workpiece. These operations can include threading, knurling, grooving, champering and potting off. So, the working principle of lathe machine involves rotating the workpiece while a cutting tool removes material to shape, cut or deform it. The operator's skill and knowledge play a crucial role in setting up the machine, selecting appropriate tools and controlling the machining process to achieve the desired outcome. So, the summary of this session is, in this session we learned what are the main components of the lathe machine and how it will work. The working principle of lathe machine also explained.